Chapter 22. She heard the others' shouts and knew the wall of light was down. Her head was bowed, the last of her shame still leaving her. The sounds of laughter and relief brought her head up, and she saw they had all taken a knee. Callady was the first to run to her. They hung on to each other as they laughed and cried. The others gathered in so that all were in the embrace. "We did it," Hal said in celebration. "We did, Hal," Roan agreed exultantly. Excitedly, they began to share. "Hal, when you kept getting stabbed, I didn't think I could bear it," Lyda cried. Hal flushed, but then nodding said, "I just kept thinking what Roan said to me in the tower." "What did he say?" Tide asked, then said, "If you don't mind sharing." With a quiver, Hal said, "What happened to you isn't you." Roan smiled. "Tide taught me that after the gray path." "I did?" Tide asked, confused. "Yes," Roan laughed. "But how did that help when you were getting stabbed?" Tide asked, more confused. "I knew the stabs weren't real, though they felt real. I knew I was doing the stabbing, if that makes sense, and I just couldn't stop." They all nodded. Hal continued. "It felt like—" He stopped and shook his head as if trying to shake off the emotions. "It's okay, Hal," Roan said, touching his shoulder. "It felt like Roan was there helping me take the pain," Hal sobbed. Roan grabbed him and held him as Hal shook with emotion. Not wanting Hal to feel stared at, Callady lovingly put her hand on Hal's back as she asked Maeve, "Was your gift the mirror?" Maeve smiled in surprise. "How did you know?" "I felt love reflecting from you when you were in there." Maeve beamed. "I am learning how to use it, and yours is the harp, isn't it?" Callady nodded with a grin. Hal lifted his head from Roan's chest. "I felt you singing, Callady." Callady went to hug Roan and Hal. "So did I," she said, feeling vulnerable. "We are so proud of you, Tilly," Lyda said. "We know how strong you are. Seeing you laying there, we knew you were hurting." She wanted to deny it. She wanted to say how they were stronger, but before she could, Maeve spoke up. "Grade was the first to kneel, and we knew to follow." "I felt something." Golf surprised them by speaking. "Go on," Maeve coaxed. "When we were kneeling around Tilly, I felt something in my chest. It made me feel less alone." Maeve and Lyda went to touch his arm. Lyda laughed. "I see I am still a twin." "Was your gift a satchel?" Pud asked Lyda shyly. "Yes," she said, sounding astonished. "I am not good at speaking. I lost my pen. I felt helpless to express myself, and I started to panic." He blushed. "I know it sounds silly to panic over a pen, but I was. Then I noticed I was wearing a satchel and knew where my pen was." "It doesn't sound silly at all, Pud. I think we all needed each other to make it," Hal said sincerely. "I know I'm not the smartest," Saul said dryly. "Don't say that, Saul," Tide chided. "Okay, well, however I should say it, I think there is a key under Boyle's heel." Picking his foot up, Boyle reached down to pick up the key under his boot. Hal instinctively grabbed it. "Hal," everyone said in chorus. He laughed and offered it back to Boyle. "Keep it, Hal." Boyle laughed. The key was about the size of her hand. It looked to be gold and had a circle with swirls. It reminded her of the swirls of light from the binding. "I wish my sister were here," Boyle said honestly. "Me too," Callady said gently. "I wish they all could have made it this far," Boyle continued. "The hardest part in some ways was before the tower, and they never reached it." "Speak for yourself," Hal said. "I much preferred the other tasks to the tower." Callady laughed. That's because we were frozen for most of it. Not all of it, Hal defended. Plus, you know what I mean. Rowan smiled. We do know what you mean, but I also know what Boyle means. This part was the best part. It was really hard, just in a different way. You guys are talking like it's over, Tide said. In some ways, it feels like it is, Rowan responded. I'm ready to go back right after I get my ruby, Hal smiled. You're not going on? Tide asked, shocked. No, Hal answered. I found what I needed. What if you can't get the big ruby? Like someone has to be in the tower or something? Tide voiced what he had been thinking about. Hal shrugged. I found what I needed. Page break. It was the morning of the 6th day, and everyone was reflective. Rowan had just asked for their attention. I know some of us haven't decided yet, and I don't want anyone to feel rushed. I just wanted to say how much I appreciate each of you. I will never be the same because of who you have helped me to become. Boyle walked closer to the path they had come on, signaling he was going home. I am looking forward to going back and hopefully telling my sister what I have learned for the both of us. Thank you, everyone. I, too, am not the same. Callady spoke next. I came on the venture, missing my mother, which I know I will for the rest of my life. But the hole that used to make me feel so empty is getting smaller. I can be happy again, even if she isn't here to share it with me, for now. Maeve put her arm around Callady. I also know what it feels like to be lonely, even when people surround me. I was always so afraid to reach out to others. I don't know if your song was supposed to mean what it meant to me, but in reaching out to you guys, I have learned so much about myself, and I know I'm not alone. Is that weird? I wanted to say not weirder than usual, Saul teased, but instead I will say, I don't feel as heavy as usual, and I too think that is because of the reaching. And taking off masks we didn't know we were wearing, Tide said seriously. Yeah, that too, Saul nodded. Tide smiled as he joined Saul. Callady and Maeve joined them. 5. Lyda pulled a paper from her pocket. Pud wrote something last night we would like to share. In the challenge is the growth. In the loss, there is gain. In the new is the hope. In the memories, we remain. Until the end, which we know is just another means to becoming more of who we are meant to be. 7. I should have gone before them, Golf said shakily. Maeve walked back to stand by him. I keep trying to figure out what that feeling was last night. He shifted his weight. I don't know how to describe it, but for the first time in my life, I feel hope. 8. Well, I already told you last night. I was going back for my ruby and... Hal stopped. You can say it, Hal, Rowan prompted. My family, Hal said hoarsely. That's right, Hal, to your family, Rowan said and walked with Hal to the others. 10. Callady and the others looked expectantly at the two remaining. I am sorry, she said with emotion. I have lied to all of you. They looked confused. My name is not Tilly, and I am not from Khaled. Ah, that's okay. You can still come home with us, Hal grinned. Callady walked to her. Do you want us to know your name? Grade looked at her and smiled. Can I guess? She looked at Grade quizzically. Sure. Is it Maeve? How did you know? I saw your face when the other Maeve introduced herself. 2 Maeves? That is going to be confusing, Hal said. Can we just keep calling you Tilly? Please do, she said. I'm sorry I lied. I let fear guide me, and I shouldn't have. It's okay, Callity said soothingly. I'm sorry you couldn't use your name, but I'm glad you are you. I wouldn't be me without you. Callity hugged her. I know you had to tell us that because you weren't coming with us. I'm sorry for that too, because I will miss you so much. She could only nod in response. Callity turned to Grade. I'm glad she will have you. Grade nodded. How will we know if you're okay? Hal asked worriedly. At this, Grade's eyes misted. Hal, I'm proud of you. Because I asked how we would know if you are okay? Hal asked, confused. Because you allowed yourself to care. She tried to find her words and fought through the choking emotion. Please, tell Aneth I smelled the lavender. Callity smiled sweetly. And please, tell everyone who will listen. Don't be afraid of the venture. Callity nodded. Thank you for your song, Callity. When I saw the gift table, I did not know why some of the gifts were there. They didn't seem very practical. I was wrong. I needed each of you and your gifts. I know I won't see you again, Callity said softly, but I know you will be okay. She choked out. I will miss you, Cal. Callity smiled through her tears. Like Pud said, until we become more of who we are meant to be.